Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, we from group 2. We will discuss a journal entitled Speaking Skills. Our group consists of myself, Alfinah Syahbeni, Tahnia Amanda Safira, Putri Listika Wulandari, Nanda Amelya, Enjia Candra, and Fira Agustia. Introduction. What speaking is? Speaking is an interactive process of constructing meaning that involves producing and receiving and processing information. Its form and meaning are dependent on the context which is it occurs, including the participants themselves, their collective experiences, the psychical environment, and the purposes for speaking. It is often spontaneous, open-ended, and evolving. However, speech is not always unpredictable. Language functions or patterns that tend to recur in certain discourse situations, declining invitations or requesting time off from work can be identified and charted. For example, when a salesperson asks, "Might I help you?" the expected discourse request includes a statement of need, response to the need, over to appreciations, acknowledgement of the appreciations, and the live talking exchange. Speaking requires that learners not only know how to produce specific points of language, such as grammar, pronunciations, or vocabulary, linguistic competence, but also that they understand when, why, and in what ways to produce language sociolinguistics competence. Finally, speech has its own skills, structures, and conversations different from written language. A good speaker synthesizes this array or of skills and language to success in a given speech up. B. The aspect of speaking skills. The aspect of speaking skills. First, pronunciations. Pronunciations is the way for students to produce clearer language when they are speaking. It means that the students can communicate effectively when they have good pronunciations and intonation, even though they have limited vocabulary and grammar. Pronunciations refers to the traditional or customary utterance of words. From the statement can be concluded that pronunciation is the way for students to produce the utterance word clearly when they are speaking English. Pronunciations does not amount to mastery of a list of sound or isolated sound word. Instead, it amounts to learning and practicing the specifically English way of making a speaker's talk easy to follow. Moreover, pronunciation includes all those aspects of speech which make for an easily intelligible flow of speech, including segmental articulations, rhythm, intonation, and phrasing, and more peripherally, even gesture, body language, and eye contact. Based on the statement above can be concluded the pronunciation includes many aspects that include articulations, rhythm, intonations, and phrasing, and more peripherally, even gesture, body language, and eye contact.
1. Pronunciation. Pronunciation is the way for students to produce clear language when they are speaking. It means that the student can communicate effectively when they have good pronunciation and intonation even though they have limited vocabulary and grammar. Pronunciation refers to the traditional or customary utterance of words. From the statement can be concluded that pronunciation is the way for students to produce the utterance words clearly when they are speaking English. Pronunciation does not amount to mystery of a list of students or isolated words. Instead, it's amounts to learning and practicing the specially English way of making a speaker talk easy to follow. Moreover, pronunciation includes all those aspects of speech which make for an easily intelligible flow of speech, including segmental articulation, rhythm, intonation, and phrasing, and more peripherally even gesture, body language, and eye contact. Based on the statement above can be concluded that pronunciation includes my aspects that include articulation, rhythm, intonation, and phrasing, and more peripherally even gesture, body language, and eye contact.
3. Vocabulary. Vocabulary is essential for successful second language use because without an extensive vocabulary, we will be unable to use the structure and function we may have learned for comfortable communicative. It can be said the 1K, the success in communicative, which is the power of word vocabulary, means the opportunity, diction, or the most important things in a language, especially in speaking. Furthermore, knowing many vocabulary will be easy to express our ideas, feelings, and truth both in oral or writing. In spoken language, the vocabulary tends to be familiar and everyday. It means that in spoken language or speaking, the vocabulary used must be very familiar and it's used in everyday conversation in order to understand the spoken discourse. Vocabulary is a basic building block of language learning. Students need to know what their meanings, how they are spelled, and how they are pronunciation. Just when teaching vocabulary, the teacher has to make sure that they explain well as the spelling and pronunciation. Vocabulary is the knowledge of meaning of words. What complicates this definition is the fact the words come in the last two forms, oral and written. Oral vocabulary is the set of words for which we know the meanings when we speak or read orally. Written vocabulary consists of two words of which the meaning is known when we write or read silently. They are important distinctions because the set of words the beginning reader know are mainly oral representation. As they learn to read, writing vocabulary come to play an interestingly in literally this does the oral vocabulary.
Alright, next is for fluency. Fluency is defined as the ability to speak communicatively, fluently, and accurately. Fluency usually refers to express oral language freely without interruption. In teaching and learning process, if the teachers want to check students' fluency, the teachers allow students to express themselves freely without interruption. The aim is to have students speak fluently and with ease. The teachers doesn't correct immediately, whereas the idea being that too much correction interferes with the flow of conversation. Alright, next is 5 comprehension. Comprehension. What is comprehension? Comprehension is an ability to perceive and process traits of discourse to formulate representation, the meaning of sentence. Comprehension of a second language is more difficult to study since it is not directly observable and must be inferred from overt verbal and non-verbal responses by artificial instruments or by the intention of the teachers or researchers. Comprehension refers to the fact that participant fully understand the nature of the research project even when producers are complicated and entail risk.
6 is interactive communication. Ability of a candidate to interact with the interlocutor and the other candidates by initiating and responding appropriately and at the required speed and rhythm to fulfill the task requirements. One of the most difficulties faced by students in speaking are the interactive nature of um, communication. In speaking, especially when they are having conversation, they are engaging in a process of negotiation of meaning. Thus, learners usually have problems in how to say things, when to speak, and other discourse constant. Although they have difficulties in this aspect, assessing students through the way they interact is good to train them to have natural speaking. 7 is appropriateness hammer. The term of appropriateness is related to some variables. When people are communicating, they have to see what affect to achieve the communicative purpose. Those variables are A. Setting, B. Participants, C. Gender, D. Channel, and E. Topic. 8. Complexity holiday. It is wrong that written language is highly organized, structured, and complex, while spoken is disorganized, fragmentary, and simple. What made speaking difficult were related to the type of information that had to be conveyed and were concerned the scale of the task and interrelationships among the different elements involved. The spoken language is complex in a different way. The complexity of written language is static and dense, while spoken is dynamic and intricate.
How to teach speaking at school? A completely different reason for student silence may simply be that the class activities are boring or are pitched at the wrong level. Very often, our interesting communicative speaking activities are not quite as interesting or as communicative as we think they are, and all the students are really required to do is answer yes or no. So, maybe you need to take a closer look at the type of speaking activities you are using and see if they really capture students' interest and create a real need for communication. Another way to encourage your students to speak in English is simply to speak in English yourself as much as possible in class. If you are shy about speaking in English, how can you expect your students to overcome their fears about speaking English? Don't worry,
Don't worry if you are not completely fluent or don't have that elusive perfect native accent. As Swain wrote, we learn to speak by speaking. And that goes for teachers as well as students. The more you practice, the more you will improve your own oral skills as well as help your students improve theirs. Conclusion. In Indonesian, English is still a foreign language. Many students think English is a difficult learning. It's all caused by lack of vocabulary mastery owned by student and habit of student who glued to grammatical when want to speak English, which make them take a long time if want to reveal or when to speak English, cannot be separated from the obstacles that make the students difficult to speak English, then create aspects of assessment that should be assessed in speech include pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary, fluency, comprehension, communication, appropriateness, and complexity. I think that's all from our group. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.